All right, God bless you. Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing? Just like Pastor said, first time I came here, he sat me right across from him, and he said, tell me everything about New Beginnings. So I said, yes, sir. So I told him all that we do, and what we do is we write resumes. We help individuals find employment. We write cover letters. We find resources and recruiters for our clients. So when he was taking notes, he's a gadget man, I'm sure all you guys know. And he was taking notes. And when I got to one part, I said, Pastor, what I do is I pray over every resume. I pray before I type that person's first name. I pray over that person, each and every resume. He stopped taking notes. He sat back. You know when you're talking good, when you make someone adjust their seat? He adjusted his seat, he stopped, and he looked at me. He said, amen. And then that's when we established that godly friendship. So what we do at New Beginnings, not only just write resumes, like I said, but we also help people find employment through all the resources that we have. And we have quite a few, and we're still growing. The Lord has blessed us. He has blessed us tremendously. We call this a ministry. It's New Beginnings Employment Organizers, but it's a ministry. And tonight's agenda is we're going to talk about, the first part is the importance of a good resume. And we're going to take about 20 minutes and talk about that. Then we're going to have Dr. Washington to come up, and she's going to talk about the importance of an educated employee. Now, education is so important. Paul was educated. Moses was educated. And look what type of leaders they became. And after that, we're going to talk about interviewing etiquette skills and a little bit of training. And then the last session is going to be the fun session. That's when we're going to interact with you. We're going to have practice interviews. So don't be nervous. Get it out now. Get it out now. It'll be fun. It'll be good. So we're going to go ahead and get started. It's going to be painless. It's going to be fun, and you're going to enjoy it. If you have any questions while we're moving along, just go ahead and feel free to raise your hand and ask. So, New Beginnings. The way we got into New Beginnings was I got laid off at McDonnell Douglas. I don't like to sit and talk. I got laid off at McDonnell Douglas in '93. And I had no idea how to file for unemployment. AFDC, food stamps, WIC. I didn't know anything about that. And back in '93, we didn't have Google. You couldn't Google. You couldn't find out where Career Builders was. There was no Career Builder. So we had to learn all this on our own. And once we discovered what it is that you need to do to get your resume written, and I had to write my own resume back then. That was 21 years ago. I still have it, by the way. And when we found all this information out, it was a blessing because I got called back 3 months later at Mac. And a lot of my co-workers got laid off. So they were asking me, hey, how do you file for unemployment? How do you file for AFDC? And I had kept all that information. And so one of my shop stewards asked me to speak in front of 300 people. And I never like to speak in front of a crowd. I said, okay, I'll do it. The Lord was with me. He was always with me. Stood up in front of everybody, gave them the information. They were all blessed. So that's how New Beginnings started. The joke is, if you get a job where Odie's at, you're going to get laid off. I've been laid off 5 times. 5 times. Last time was 2 years ago. And the Lord has blessed us to open up New Beginnings. We have our own office. We have a staff. We have a team. That's my lovely wife, DeVal, back there. We've been married 26 years. That's my lovely sister sitting next to her, Carolyn Story. That's a new friend of mine. Her name is Rebecca. She's our intern. Yeah, the Lord has blessed us with interns. And the Lord said, do not spend any money on this office. And we had to be obedient and not spend anything. It's all furnished. We have 9 monitors. We have 4 computers. We have a staff. So the Lord has blessed us, and we're going to share with you of the knowledge that we have picked up along the way, and it's going to be beneficial for you. I see a lot of familiar faces, and some faces, or some, I'm putting names with the faces because I've done some of your resumes. And I hope I've been good to you as you have been good to me, as just like Pastor's been good to me. So let's get started. New beginnings. This is just an intro of what we do. Like I said, how we go about our business. It's a ministry. So, what is a resume? A resume is a document that lists your past employment skills, your skill sets, your experiences, and it's a bibliography. It's a short bibliography of yourself. A lot of people say, well, you know, I could write my own resume. I said, well, okay, you know, I'll stand in the back wings just in case if you need some help. The hardest part about writing a resume is starting it, knowing how it starts. Where should I put my name? Should it go up top in the middle? Should it go on the left? Should it go on the right? What is fonts? What is 1-inch margins? What is white space? You know, what's a bullet? So that's our job. Our job is to take all that hard work from you so that we can take care of it and write the resume like the Lord has blessed us. Like I said, I pray over every resume. And I pray that the Lord will bless my fingers and my hands to type. He gives me the words to put on paper. There's two styles of resumes that we like to structure. The first one is a reverse chronological, and everybody knows what that is. That's showing your last job first, and then it goes in chronological order. The next one is a functional resume. This functional resume camouflages dates because there's some of us who have date gaps in our resume. And we work with a lot of ex-offenders. So we have to use a functional resume. And this functional resume just shows all your skills, your skill sets. I haven't had to write a functional resume for anyone yet for Pastor Jay. But these are the two styles that we write. So what is on your resume? Well, the Lord gave us this acronym, POSSEE, P-O-S-S-E-E. This is the easiest way to remember how you should style your resume, how you should set everything up. The P in POSSEE, the first P, is personal information. That's your name, your contact information. Here's a bit of advice. This is the first advice for the night. Whenever you're putting your email address on your resume, please don't make it personal, like babymama123@yahoo.com. Make sure it is a very professional sounding email address because they probably will not look at, give your resume a second look. The O in POSSEE is your objective. One of the things that I do when I write a resume, if I don't have enough space to put the objective and the summary, I put the objective and the summary in the same line. I don't know if you can see that. The S in the second S in POSSEE is your skills. That's your skill sets. That's everything that goes. I like to put your skills up top. The first quarter of your resume, the top quarter of your resume is the most important. That's why I put skills up top. Unless you are in education, you're going to be a principal or a doctor, I'll put your education up top. But here, the first quarter page of your resume is most important. They're looking at your name. They're looking at your geographical location. They're seeing if you live close enough to get to the employer. The first E is education. This identifies your training credentials. This identifies what you know. And the second E is your experiences. I always like to do 3 bullets. Well, 3 lines, 3 bullets, or 3 bullets, 4 lines. I always like to keep everything neat and in order. I don't know if you can see that imaginary line. That's exactly how we do it at New Beginnings. We want to make it attractive. We want to make your resume very attractive. You are also a resume. No matter where you go, someone may be watching you. And that person may be your next employer. Someone is watching the way you look, the way you talk, the way you walk, how you think. It is very important to... I live by Matthew 5:16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16, that is what I live by. Every person, before you go into an interview, remember that verse. Take your Bible with you. Personal information, like I said, no nicknames in your email address or no nicknames up top. Use your full mailing address, no P.O. box, because they're going to think you're hiding something. You use a P.O. box or you use someone else's address and they find out you're not there, they think that you're falsifying your information. Telephone numbers, please, whenever you have a message system, a recording system, don't leave jokes on there or don't leave like rap music in the background or something like that, because an employer is not going to take you serious. And like I said, your email address, make it appropriate. It must sound professional. Your objective. So what is an objective? An objective tells the employer what it is that you want to do. What can you do? What it is that you would like to do for their organization. And your summary tells the employer what it is that you can do. Objective, what it is that you want to do. Summary, your summary is what it is that you can do. Your skills. This is the most important part because employers scan this area first. They scan your skills. They're looking for key words. That's what we do at New Beginnings. First question that I ask everyone before I write their resume is, what is it that you're looking for? What job is it that you're seeking? What do you want to pursue? And once that person tells me, then that gives me an idea to go to that website of that employer, study that job description, and I take key words from that job description and put them on their resume. That's how you get noticed. That's one of the main reasons and ways that you can get your resume noticed. Now, I don't know if you know now, but there's not a lot of resume readers now. What you do is you send in your resume, and it's an automatic fill-in. They fill in the blanks for you. So they're taking your keywords off your resume, and if you match 10% or whatever the percentage is for that employer, if you match 10% of their job description, they're going to put you in a call pile. If you match less than 10% that's on your resume versus the job description, they're not going to call you. You probably won't get an email. You won't get a phone call because a lot of them don't call you anymore. A lot of HR personnel, they do not get on the phone and call. And if you notice, they don't have phone numbers that you can call. Everything is either online now. You can't go and get an application. Gone are the days of filling in applications. I sure miss those days. Your education. One of the wonderful things about education is it tells the employer what you know, where you've been, how long you've been there, what you studied. Believe it or not, they're going to do a research on your resume. And if they find anything that's out of place, they may not call you. I tell everybody, please don't falsify your resume. Whenever I do a resume and I send it off to that person, I ask them, please don't embellish. If it's something that you want to add, that's your resume. But please, I advise, don't throw in a skill that you've never had, because once you get into that interview, they may question you. They'll sit you right in front. All right, tell me about this. Oh, New Beginnings did my resume. They must have put that on there. So, and your experiences. The Lord has really blessed me to place everything nice and neat. He showed me how to do this. This wasn't an overnight thing. He has really filled our ministry where we have a lot of return customers. A lot of return customers. We get phone calls all the time, every day. When I came in, I was outside talking to another customer, another new customer. Resume dues. Like I said, make sure your resume is accurate. Make sure it says what it is that you can do, because they will question you. Remember, when you're in an interview, they're not reading your resume. They already read your resume. That's how you got the interview. They're reading you. They're reading how you sit, how you stand, how you respond to difficult questions, how you move, how you look up when you're trying to find an answer, how you look down when you're trying to escape a question. They're noticing your aroma, how you smell. They are. One of the jobs that I had for almost 10 years, I would fly across the U.S. and I would interview IT engineers. I would sit one-on-one across these engineers all the time. And there's a lot of stories that I could tell. But there's one gentleman who had his Bluetooth in his ear. And he had his laptop open, and I'm talking to him. And I said, "Hey, sir, whenever you're done, we can continue." And he put the laptop down, but he left his earpiece in. And that was so distracting. The interview was over right then. Thoroughly know what's on your resume. Just because somebody else wrote your resume, that doesn't mean that you're taking a chance on not studying. You're supposed to study your resume. Know everything that's on there, because it's all about you. We don't falsify anything. When you tell us what you've done in the past, that's what we put on your resume. We will enhance those words. We will grab those key words from those job descriptions, but we won't put anything on there that will hurt your chances for employment. Provide a good, clear copy of your resume. No blue paper, no green paper. Make sure it's 20-pound paper, either white or ivory. Have somebody else to check your resume for any grammatical errors. Just because a word didn't pick it up or a spell checker didn't catch something, that doesn't mean that it was perfect. Have somebody else to look it over before you send it in. And you want to keep your resume to one page, because a resume reader only takes 15-20 seconds to read your resume. And you don't want to prolong that. You don't want to bore someone with 2 and 3 pages. Okay. Resume don'ts. You put a picture on your resume, you're going to shoot your chances down for a job. I have seen a lot of people put their pictures on resumes. And hey, I have. And that statement, references available upon request. You can leave that off. I say leave that off because that's extra space that you can put something important on. They already know that. That's something that they're well aware of this. Avoid using dates more than 10 years of graduation. Because then they'll do like this. They'll start subtracting and figure out how old you are. Do not include anything that's going to hinder your chances for employment. Whenever I write, the only way that they'll know that you're a woman or a man is by your first name. I don't put anything in there. And if you're going to write your resume, please do not put your religion in there. Please do not put anything that is going to harm your opportunities, unless you're going for a minister's position, or you're going in music ministry. Of course, you put that in there. Your resume must be easy to read, and do not include a salary requirement on your resume. I get that a lot. But I get that a lot. Okay. Okay, we'll go to the next one. So, do we have any questions? I know you got to have some questions. Yes, ma'am.
What about references?
Okay, that doesn't, you don't want to put that on the resume. That would go separately for two reasons. One, when you're going to fill out an application, you can put your references, if you have a smartphone, I would send it to your smartphone and just keep it in a file somewhere. And then whenever you're filling out an application, you can open it up and read, oh, there's my references right there. So you want to keep that separate. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Volunteer work? Excellent. You want to put that on there. I don't advise putting the word volunteer because that scares a lot of employers. So I would leave that word off. Community service also is something that will scare them away. You can just put all your skills in there, all your experiences, and just leave those two off. Because, hey, you did the work. You put all that time in. I would include everything that you did on that document. Anyone else? Okay. We're going to bring... This is by far my favorite part of every workshop. Every workshop. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. Got your resume, sir. Matter of fact, I do have his resume. I can take that off. So what brings you here?
Well, I'm just here to obtain a job to where my past work experiences and educational communities.
Wow. Okay, that was easy. Go on. Okay. All right. I'm going to give him the hardest question that's out there right now. This is the most difficult question to answer. And I know you'll do well. I know you'll do well. The Lord's with you, right?
He is.
Isaiah 41:10. All right. Here we go. So, Mr. Greenlee, right?
Yes, sir.
What makes Mr. Greenlee Mr. Greenlee?
Well, what makes me me is because I'm different from other people. I believe that everybody is different.
I believe that everybody has a different calling, a different purpose. And so what I want to do is I believe that God's given me gifts and given me abilities so I can utilize and just really just go forth and find a position to where I can do exactly that is that God has called me to do, that is not like everyone else.
Amen. Amen. Excellent. Excellent. Hold on. You keep it. You keep it.
Hallelujah.
Yes. Here's a technique. Whenever you're at an interview, this is a great technique. Whenever you're feeling a little nervous, whenever that heartbeat is thumping, whenever you start sweating and palms are getting wet, the best thing to do is to lower those shoulders.
Yes.
You lower those shoulders, that heart rate goes down, the blood rate just drops, and you can breathe a little bit easier. You know what, he's a pro. We need to find somebody else because he's going to knock out the rest of these questions. Yes, you'll do well. You'll do well tomorrow. Amen. Amen. Sister Alexius? Alexius. Nice to meet you. Before you sit down, do not sit down.
That's right. Tell them.
Until they ask you to sit down, because that could have been my chair. This could be your chair. No, we're not. Nobody's wrong. Nobody's wrong. One of the things she did so sweet, she gave a good, firm handshake.
Good.
She announced her name, and I really like that she looks me dead in the eye. Okay. Miss Alexius. What makes Miss Alexius Miss Alexius?
What makes me me? Well, I believe that I'm very unique in the skills that I have. I have a lot of past history and experience with. What is this? Oh, customer service. Okay, I'll do customer service. So what makes me me is that I'm a quick learner and that I train easily. So I believe that I would be an asset to the corporation.
Excellent, excellent. Yes. What's the company you work at?
I work in the post office.
Post, oh, that's too easy. Okay. All right. The post office. So, what don't you like about your current supervisor?
I think she's a wonderful person. She's an excellent supervisor. I do believe that she could give me more feedback on my performance.
There you go.
Ever want to say anything negative about anyone, any position, or any company? So give me three reasons why we should not promote you.
There are no reasons. I will give you 3 reasons why you should.
There you go.
Tomorrow.
Just give me in a word form. All right. Excellent job. Thank you so much. All right. See, it's not hard at all, brother. It's not hard at all. Come on, man.
I am excited to be here. Odie told me about the project and being invited, and he said, well, how do I introduce you? I said, just tell him that I've got my own business, and if he's interested, then he will definitely let you know. And so your pastor has a vision. I always say that I never want to sell anybody on a vision. If they can't see what I have to offer when I mention it to them, then that's not the person that God has for me to work with at that time. It doesn't mean maybe in the future, but just at that moment that it's just not time for a professional relationship. So I praise God for your pastor who has a vision that incorporates meeting the needs of his flock. So thank you. As is mentioned, Dr. Carletta D. Washington, I have a former student in the audience who he was also, while I was over as an assistant principal, he was there at the school. So we've had an opportunity. He said today when we both pulled up at the same time, I just can't get away from you, can I? So he knew me before the doctor. I was in the process. He'll say as a teacher, yes, because I worked him very hard. I worked all my babies hard, and I considered them my babies. Now, he was in high school, but I still called them my babies. And when I would talk to people in public and say, yeah, my children, my babies, how many do you have? I thought you just had one. And I was like, yeah, I do, but at work, I probably have about 80 to 100 in my loads. So I consider them all my babies, whether they love me or not. You have to teach kids as if they're your own. That's what kept me going through those rough times. I looked and said, somebody's teaching my child the way I want her to be taught, and the parents are sending their kids here for me to teach their child as if they were in this classroom. So he's one of my babies, and I'm proud of him. It's nice to see him. I see them. I never always remember names, but so just like a mom, So education is very important. I believed in reading and writing. Those are the keys to success. English is in everything. It does not matter what subject your child has. And I encourage parents, please don't project your strengths or weaknesses on your child. For me, English was my first love, and I was excellent at English, excellent at writing. Not so much on reading comprehension, but learned my way through that. That's why I became an English teacher, because of the love of writing, and I did love to read. And then also, my daughter's biological father was great in math. So one thing, I always dated somebody in high school and college that was good at math, and I was good at English. And I used to tell my girls or the boys, if they were dating, date somebody, who is as concerned about academics as you are, or they're going to pull you up when you fall, or they're they're better at something than you are, so you complement each other. So my boyfriends knew math, I knew English, and we helped each other out. And we made it through. But I did not project that on my daughter. I didn't expect her, I didn't tell her, well, I wasn't good at math. You know, math is just going to be so hard, you know. And honestly, her father had passed before she entered school, so she never got to hear him say, I was so bad at English, you know, English was just so bad. And I hear parents do that a lot, you know, and your child picks up on that. So if you say it's hard, and right now I have a friend who keeps saying to his daughter, you know, school is really hard. He's got her in a pretty competitive school. And he says all the time, you know, he'll call and he says, well, you know, school is just so hard and I think they give too much homework. And I'm like, hold up. You know, that's where you put your daughter. And if you believe in education, she needs to be held accountable. So we need to hold our kids accountable for their education. I said, she's in that class every day, not you. You know, and I used to tell my parents, I don't expect you to understand. I expect your child to understand it. That's who I'm giving the grade to. So that child is in the classroom. And so parents, I'm saying all of this because it fits into the types of jobs and careers your child gets. You know, if we limit our children, even as young as the youngest one, we have babies here. We have kids who are in preschool, who are in early elementary or a little upper elementary. We can't limit them by our fears. And it's okay to, you know, be a little fearful if they don't make the grade, but we want to push them to excel because that education opens the doors very wide to whether your child has a job or a career. And I have never known a parent who did not want their child to do better than them. If you find one, let me know. But I want my child, I mean, I have a doctorate, but that's because that's something personal that I wanted because I first heard someone called doctor probably when I was 8. I mean, TV or something. I don't know. I just knew I wanted it. I didn't know what all it entailed, thank God, because that might have scared me off. But it was something that I knew I wanted, so it was for personal reasons. And that's opened up a lot of doors for me because I have that and because I persevered. And I encourage you parents to do the same thing for your kids. We all have made what we would call mistakes. I made many. You know, single parent, second generation welfare parent, single mom, you know, but I didn't have to stay there. And when I was receiving public assistance, I told my caseworkers, because many of us know they talk to you like you're a dog. And I told them, I only need this for the time being. I don't need this always. This is where I'm going to be in 4 or 5 years. And when I graduated, I called them and said, I'm graduating in May. Because that's how I wanted them to know. You know, you can't look at people. You shouldn't treat them, whether they were going to college or not, was not the point. I just knew for me what I was doing, and I knew that I wanted something, I wanted my doors open wide. And for many reasons, sometimes we get in narrow positions as parents, and that's understandable. Some of it we have to take care of parents. Some of it we have to put our dreams on hold. Sometimes the bills, the debt. And what I'm trying to encourage people is to also keep the debt down. I know we love our things. We love to shop, to get our nails done, our feet done. We want our kids looking good. I've had parents to say, I don't want my kid to know we're poor. So they're working 3 jobs so their kid doesn't know that they're poor. And then they don't have time to spend with their child, which is really what their child wants, but their child looks good. But their child is suffering on the inside. So sometimes we have to be honest with our kids. With our daughter, I would just say, we can't afford it. When I was a kid growing up, we used to ask people, can we rake your leaves? Can we cut your grass? If there's a chore we didn't normally have at home, if we wait till close to payday and ask our dad, can we do this? Can we do that? Sometimes he say yes, sometimes he say no. But sometimes today, parents don't feel that their kids need to do any chores. We kind of shelter our kids, and then they don't learn that work ethic, and then they're still home in their teen years, they don't want to work. They prefer to spend summer vacation doing nothing. And then you come home in the summer, you say, well, how come the house isn't cleaned up? Well, they're not cleaning up during the school year. So why should the summer be any different? They don't clean up during Christmas break. So why should the summer be any different? Then they get to college or out of high school, or they're 30 and they're still home in your basement or their bedroom because they never had any responsibilities. So these things kind of still keep us stuck. And my goal, I don't want anybody to feel bad. I mean, like I said, there are a lot of things I can take out of my closet, but I turn those into triumphs, and I push my daughter forward to do better than I did, to try to prevent it. Doesn't mean she'll listen to everything. She's doing great so far, though. Praise God, 23. She'll be graduating from Missouri State next May, so that's our goal. She's a single parent, so we've got 3 generations of single parents, and that's one of the cycles that I want to break. Our granddaughter is 3, and my daughter and her fiance are getting married tomorrow, or Thursday. So we are, I told her, one of my jobs as the grandparent is to help you so that Chloe will not become another generation of single parent. And I said, I'm not down in that. That's what I was. But at some point, we have to break these cycles. Because my mom, she got through trade school. She got married. I got through college. I got married. My daughter's getting married. She's getting through college. But at some point, I want somebody to just make it through high school, and then whatever they want to do, whether it's college, it's a career of some sort, it's the military, but to do it without having to make decisions based upon now I have kids. And so sometimes as parents, we also have to deal with those issues because you don't want to regret your kids. You don't want to feel like they were a mistake, like the world tells us. I had a pastor say one time, or a Sunday school teacher, because one of the kids said something that a parent had told them that they were a mistake. And the child was probably about 4th grade. And the teacher said, God knows everything that happens. You were not a mistake. And we have to start telling our kids, you are beautiful. You have a purpose. You are my heritage. You're going to carry on your dreams for the entire family. Things like that, start speaking things over them. And definitely referring back to the word. So education, if we're teaching them reading, if we're teaching them writing, every subject has reading and writing. Even math, there's reading and writing. Music, there's even there's even math in music. There's math when you're cooking. There's math and reading, social studies, it's all tied. You just have to find it. Sometimes we can find the connections right away, and then other times we have to search a little bit. And what I encourage parents to do, even if you don't know the assignment, that's fine. The school really doesn't expect you to know it. Like I said, your child is in that classroom, but make sure that your child is doing the homework. Have them show you something. Also have them to explain it. If they can't explain it to you, remember when we were in schools, who, what, where, why, when, and how. If your child can't tell you that about something, then that means they don't know it. And they either need to go back and refocus, or they need to start a study group. A study group's an excellent way for you to get to know your child's friends. Invite them all over, even if you give them pizza. I know it's junk food, but pizza, or you cook a nice, decent meal for them. But have their friends come over and do a study night. That way you get to learn their friends. And then we're also teaching kids to network, because that's how you get jobs. That's how you find things. It's not always that you go to a career fair. You've networked. If I know you and you tell me, well, I'm looking for this type of job, I may know somebody. I start talking to somebody, and then I give you a call. But if we never make that connection, I'm hearing all day that this person needs somebody, but I don't know that you exist. So that's how our kids start networking, is you have it in a controlled environment, and you teach them about education early. I talk a little bit about a job versus a career. A job just pays the bills. It's something you don't want, you're sick of, you wish you could get out of. Your jobs are nice if that's all you can get, and especially if you're a kid. If you're a kid, high school, college, that's perfect. You just need a job. But, we want to start moving into careers as adults, or moving into those, because careers come with salaries. You don't have to worry about how much you're making an hour. It's already built in. You know you're getting your raise, or you know that you're moving up on the ladder. So careers, you have your benefits. But when you have a job, you don't necessarily know that. You don't necessarily have that security. And unfortunately, when you have kids, you really need that security. You need to know that you'll have insurance. You need to know if your child's school calls, you can take off. If your kid has a game or a recital, that you can be there. And you want to know that you can rest, or that you're only working Monday through Friday, or, or whatever schedule you want. So I encourage people to look for careers. And that's where resume writing comes in. Sometimes we think we can do it ourselves. And I know as an English teacher, that's the hardest thing for me to do, was my own resume. And then I went in, I contacted our church, Trinity Mount Carmel, and I asked them, is there anybody who does resumes? And they said, yeah, we got a guy, Odie. And so I called him. Well, they gave me the number. I called him and met him, and it was a good meeting. And within like 2-3 days, he had my resume, and I saw myself on paper. And the person I saw was me. Sometimes you can't go to everybody and they do your resume. Some people do it and you look at it and say, now who's that person? I don't think I can live up to that. So when Odie talked about studying your resume, it needs to be honest. But he can only work with the information he gets. So if you hold back, then you have a resume that's incomplete. So I love that he put everything on paper, and I said, I can do this. It gave me confidence. Now, I decided to focus, though, on entrepreneurship. I have been a teacher, curriculum instruction, data assessment specialist, assistant principal, and principal. But I decided that with my nonprofit organization to turn all of that experience into my own business. So sometimes we're chasing after another company's dream, and we're chasing after other people's vision, but God has given us a vision to take what we already have and turn it into a business. And so Education for All, I've had this nonprofit since 2002, and I've never really done a whole lot with it because I'm always working somewhere else. But I needed that experience and time to get the education to help open doors with my nonprofit, for my nonprofit. So I won't. So I won't lie, it is hard, but you have to have a plan. So one thing I've done, I actually have 3 books, and I'm a writer. So the first thing, this is how they put the English together. So you find a way to make it work. So this book focuses on how everybody's role in education and how they can work to improve education. Then based upon experiences that I had with our daughter when she was a teenager, and I didn't have these issues because if my parents just said no on some things, it was just no, but I'm a different generation. And with my daughter, when we said no, but when she had other adults in her life that said yes, then that meant what we were saying was not going to be accepted. And so I talk about protecting your children from other people. Some of those are family members and people that you feel you can trust. And then the latest is how to start a business and be your own boss. So what I've had people ask me over the years, since they know that my business is nonprofit, how do you start a business? What are some of the things you do? When we have a business, you have to come correct. I mean, so many things out there are just bootleg, and I say ghetto, and you're looking, and it's like some of my students would not want to write, would not practice standard English, would not dress appropriately, but kept saying they want to be a lawyer. I said, even Snoop Dogg wants somebody that does not look and dress and act like him when he's on his albums. So that tells you something. He's going to get, when Johnny Cochran was alive, Johnny Cochran, he's going to get Shapiro, he's going to find somebody. But they will not look like him when he's in a video. So we have to be realistic. You need your business cards. You need your website. You need to have a professional demeanor about you. You need to make sure that you have your paperwork filed, because some people want to join with you. Like I have a lady with a computer company who wants to work with me, and first thing she asked about was my board. How's your board? Because I know my board will ask. So I had that information. I have another one who wants to make a donation to my group, but you have to be nonprofit. So she asked, do you have your nonprofit paperwork? I have that. Now imagine if those two ladies wanted to work with me and I said, you know what? I never did that. I didn't think it was important. Can you give me 6 weeks? Or however long it took for me to go through the process. So if you're going to start a business, do it appropriately. As they say in the word, in decency and in order. And then also what I want to say about your own business is to use what talents and skills you have. You have passions in you, and you just have to be honest about that. And if you don't know, somebody else can give you ideas. Your best friends, your family, they'll give you all kinds of ideas. But you just have to figure it out. And business is not a rocket science. It's what vision do you feel God is giving you, and how can you serve others, because your business is a ministry. So you want to make sure that you're ministering to others. It's not about money. We see the Trumps and all of them, but, when you're truly serving God, God has things for you, and he gives you experiences. He puts you in people's lives, and he uses everybody and everything. But money is not your first priority. Money would be nice. But, I know that my business, it's a ministry first. And so a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Part of education is reading the newspaper. How many people read the American or pick it up? Okay. So everybody start picking it up. It's free. It's in a lot of locations. They have a career section. And I say that because I'm promoting the American because it's free. You can find other job sites and newspapers and websites. But for instance, the newspaper, it goes from Thursday to Thursday. So this edition here will end tomorrow. And then Thursday you'll see a new one. But it gives a broad overview, a detailed overview of a spring career and networking fair. It's actually a job fair. They also put a little blurb on another section. So they're really promoting this if there's a full page spread, and then if they have an ad, that means that this is going to be huge. So this is something, if you're looking for a job, tomorrow, March the 19th, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Forest Park in the cafeteria, there's a job fair. But one thing about job fairs, me having been in education, I've had the privilege of being on the other side for trying to hire and recruit people. And some of the things I've seen, this is for education, and some of the things I've seen in education have been horrible. So I can imagine what some people are seeing in some other venues, because you're expecting when people are for education, they know they'll be in front of kids, that they're being professional and that they're the best coming, but not necessarily so. So I have seen people inappropriately dressed, females with stilettos. Please, you cannot, if you're working with kids, I promise you, those heels will not stay on very long. Sometimes we look at female principals and we think they might be gay. It's not. It's you go from a dress to pants and flat shoes quickly when you're chasing around kids or walking through a big building or going from classroom to classroom. But people wonder about, no, the job changes your whole appearance. So those stilettos, as the pastor said, that's not realistic work shoes. So avoid coming in with that. If foul language, I had a person who accidentally cursed during the interview. And I thought, and he really wants me to put him in front of kids. And I told my students, I would tell them, the language you use comes out when you interview. So even if it's not foul language that's your issue, whatever you have with your language, try to switch it every once in a while. You don't have to switch it all the time, but just kind of every once in a while, switch your language around so then that way you can think fast. You can register on your feet during an interview. When we do mock interviews, you won't get nervous and say something, be out of frustration. I have also seen that people couldn't spell. And, spelling is huge. There are so many people who have concerns with spelling. And if spelling is something that's your issue, please work on it. There is a lady who told me about a student of hers who wants to write plays. He's eager, but the word had gotten out amongst the staff at his school that he can't write. And the teacher said when she did look at his stuff, because he has all kinds of ideas, but when she looked at it, he couldn't write. It was confirmed. And it's sad because he has the ideas and he knows he can't write, but he's not doing anything about it. So if you know what your weaknesses are, it's really bad if you don't take the time to work on it. So just work on whatever you know that your weaknesses are. And I wanted to just mention briefly, turning your downfalls into a career. For me, in education, I felt like there's so much red tape going on, that sometimes I can do more outside of the system. Because there's a system. Every career job, it has a system. And you have to figure out, will you fit into it, and how much are you willing to fit into it? And when it gets to be to where that's just not where you want to go, it's time to go. I don't like to see anybody stand on a job where they're unhappy. And I'll say honestly, that's why sometimes I think we have a lot of recalls, because there are a lot of unhappy people behind some of those lines, and they're tired, so they're physically fatigued. They're mentally exhausted, they're depressed, and then we end up with recalls. Or we hear about people going ballistic on jobs, or people falling out, having heart attacks on the job, things like that. So just put your health, and if you have kids and a spouse or significant other, put them first. And then find the job that fits into that equation instead of trying to fit yourself into somebody else's equation. So I encourage people to look at the career options that are out there. There are careers and jobs that will fit and that can bring you to where you want to eventually be. So definitely services that Odie has are important. And then if you feel like after all of that, that's just not where you're meant to be or where you should be, then start thinking of an exit plan to start your own business. And make sure that you're putting all the groundwork. And I really encourage men to do it, because women, it's easy a lot of times, especially if you have a significant other or your husband, because a lot of times, because men know that God made them the providers, they will say, well, sweetheart, well, baby, you go ahead, and they'll do 2, 3, 5 jobs to help keep us happy, because we know if mama's happy, everybody's happy. So our men will support us, but when it comes to the man, sometimes it's difficult for them. There are passions inside of them, so I encourage our women to support our men emotionally. If there's anything that we can think of to help them get their dreams and to be the provider and the man that they see that God is wanting them to be, then let's support them in what their dreams are. And I'm not saying that we work and they stay home. I'm saying whatever it is in your household that you think will allow your man to be a man in his dreams and pursuits. Because there are so many men that are unhappy because and I got a neighbor who's like that. We talked about that yesterday. He really has a dream and passion, but he's trying to hang strong to take care of his family. But now if the tables were turned, I know he'd let his wife do what she needed to do or felt she was supposed to do. But our men, so just be in prayer for our men, because our men need our support. And God wants us to, we're their helpmate. So we need to do that. Okay. All right.